Hello,
Hello.
Vince, and thank you for coming to speak to us today about your experience of transcendental meditation.
It is a pleasure.
So, first of all, maybe you want to introduce yourself.
My name is Vincent. I've been doing TM for since last December. It's October, 9 months, 10 months. In my ordinary life, I am a management consultant. Don't hold it
The
against me.
responsibility.
Responsibility, large programs of change within financial institutions. So, yeah, that's me, basically.
Right. So, lots of
Lots of
pressure,
pressure.
lots of stress,
Yes,
lots of
indeed.
stress.
Yes.
Great.
One of the reasons why I considered TM, really.
Good. Well,
Yeah.
that was going to be my next question,
Okay.
actually,
Okay.
is for what reasons did you learn TN?
Uh, well, I actually learnt for, I suppose, what I understood to be benefits to my creativity. Outside of my management consultant life, I am reasonably creative, I suppose. I write novels and I am a musician. So I figured that that was the main benefit I was really looking for. And that was based on sort of David Lynch and an interview I heard with Nick Cave, who is also an advocate of TM. I think that was probably why, because I can't really recall any other reason why I would have even considered it or knew about it really. So
Right, so that's interesting. So you learned to improve your creativity,
yes.
and now, let's look now at the benefits. Then,
Mm.
so you obviously found some benefits for for your creativity, but did it affect other areas of your life as well?
Yeah, yes, it did. This is why back to the management consultant alter ego. That stress was becoming was getting worse over time, mostly to do with the idea of my age and as a contractor, my contract. I'm not a permanent employee. I go from contract to contract, so there was a sort of growing sense of dread and anxiety about the future, which was creating problems in itself. Uh, and actually, initially, when I first started meditation, these began to sort of dissipate quite quickly. In fact, because I think it's normal. Um, Early on, you tend to see quite significant change. Whether that pace continues is it's neither here nor there. But within a couple of months, I realised that I didn't have that anxiety, and it was quite chronic anxiety. So it would be it would lead to a chaotic mind, frantic kind of rehashing of the same situations, thoughts, processes, very circular, very unproductive, and very stressful and wearying in themselves. And they just seem to stop. And probably as a result of that, a growing sense of calm, really. Just from
Mm.
practicing the TM every day,
Okay.
perhaps I don't know the reasons, but anyway, that
Yeah.
that that happened. It's not foolproof because when serious stress does occur, I will still become anxious, but it's a more controlled anxiety, having seen uh, through it in a way, I suppose, or seen beyond it. It's easier and it's less impactful as well because of the practice, I think. So
Great. So
yeah.
faster recovery time, basically.
Yes, yeah, less
Yes.
less serious, stress and anxiety, and consequently quicker. Creativity, at first I thought it had stopped my creativity, but lately I realized that it had made me weary of the things I was doing, uh,
Mm.
and I had to go through a process of adjustment, I suppose, and I'm beginning now to create things with a sort of refreshed view of what I'm actually trying to do.
Mm.
The writing is one thing, but particularly with music, uh, I was just doing this, I practiced a lot, but I was just doing the same things over and over again. And actually now I'm looking for ways to express myself much more, rather than just, endlessly perfecting my technique. I'm now
Right.
kind of composing in a limited way.
Right. Wow,
So,
that's
yeah,
very
so that's good.
that's
Yeah,
exciting.
that's great.
So basically, it sort of opened up new avenues for you, you could say.
Yes, it made
Yeah.
me dissatisfied with the kind of
Mm,
thing I was doing, I guess because I was changing somehow internally. I don't
mm,
know, emotionally, psychologically. And I went through a period of thinking it was harming my creativity, but actually I can see now that I was
yes.
just, I knew I was fed up. That's why I did TM, because
Yes.
I'd been trying to write novels for 30 years without success. So, I needed a break.
Yeah. So that's really interesting that it's not always the way we imagine it that it helps us. It's in some completely different way that we're not imagining.
Yeah.
Because obviously it is opening up our awareness and giving us a broader perspective and a deeper perspective on things.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yes. And it does that with, assuming it's the TM, and I can think of nothing else that I've done to cause it. So yeah, I'm fairly comfortable with it being a result of that. Um, it does, as I said, I think talked to you earlier, it moves you towards things that are more beneficial, things that are good for you and for those around you in some way as well, which I think is perhaps the most important
Mm.
part of it, really.
Great.
Yeah.
And do you want to give us some examples of things that have changed in that regard?
Yeah. I mean, even in work, which I've always kind of loathed because it's so stressful and it's so corporate, and in a way, I'm not really comfortable there. But I realised that I did not consider other people very well. I considered them as obstructions, threats, you know, and actually, I began to realise that they had their own journey, and that
Yes.
they were there as well. I mean, my position is quite senior, so actually being able to actually, concern myself with who they were rather than how they were,
Yeah.
has made me much less critical, and I think made those relationships more productive. It's not foolproof, because there are
Yes.
days when I am still frustrated by people's inability to get on and finish something. But in general, I just look at them, I see them differently now, or I
Mm.
consider them differently. I don't know if I
Yes.
see them accurately at all, but I just don't try to impose my view of
Hmm.
them on them. And I
Nice.
actually find I see their qualities a bit quicker and a bit clearer than I did. I can
Nice.
see where their shortcomings are as well in the business or work
Mm.
sense. And, I try and work with them on that without being harsh. So,
Wow, that's
yeah,
really,
it's
really, really
really, I've
nice.
become the most perfect management consultant there is. So, no,
It's
it
yeah,
has made a difference. And,
yeah,
part of that, I think, is because the stress, it all works. It kind of all, it's compounded. So the stress goes, the anxiety goes, the dislike of actually being there is reduced, the focus is improved, the I wouldn't say compassion, but the consideration and care for others is increased, and it all kind of works better than it did. Yeah.
yes, yes. It's amazing, isn't it? And so that's fabulous. It's improved your relationships, so you feel more connection, I guess, to others. You
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
more tolerant, more compassionate of others,
I'm
towards
almost
others.
perfect. No, I bet, yeah, and with my family as well, my children and my partner, just much more um, connected. I think
Yeah,
not much, I always was, but
yeah.
just I'm a little sweeter,
I'm sure
I
that's
guess.
greatly
It is,
appreciated.
yes, frequently. So
So the household is a much nicer environment and the workplace is a much nicer environment.
yes, yeah. I mean, the house
Yeah.
was always okay, but
Yeah.
often I would be in a room somewhere playing an instrument rather
Yes.
than engaging, because that's how I
Yeah.
de-stress, and I don't need to
Yeah.
de-stress so much. Of course, my children have both left to go to university this year, so it's a bit wasted. If they were back, they'd be
But
enjoying themselves.
yes, and when they come back to visit,
Yes,
so it's
yeah.
good. So that's really nice. Um, and any other benefits that you can think of that?
I think I have a lot of faith in the sort of principle, I think, of it, that actually by meditating, I am removing stress regularly.
Right.
Uh, and I think I couldn't say my health is better, because I've had various things recently that I don't think anything would have stopped. But in general, I kind of, that's why I also do it, because I think I can't tell, but I think my body will be grateful.
Yes, I mean, just by virtue of the deep rest
Yeah,
alone,
yeah, yeah,
it's a time for the body to recuperate and repair.
yes. Yeah. And as maybe others do as well, I kind of do the yoga as well, at least once a day, and that's obviously beneficial. I'm much
Yes.
more supple than I was. It's not complicated yoga. It's not an intense or
Yeah.
prolonged yoga, but it's part of it for me now as
Yeah.
well. So,
So did you learn this at the TM Center, the
uh,
yoga postures?
yeah, I learnt it with you. You can also see the videos on the app, and then with the coherence days that we do, we do it there. So I get to just refine the technique a bit. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So, what would you say has been like the greatest support from the TM Center in terms of, your progress and helping you with maintaining the practice?
The checking, I think, checking.
Yeah.
Yeah, those really, because they kind of, I think you can do it yourself for months on end, possibly without any contact, but you do kind of become slightly remote. And I think a certain doubt about what you're doing creeps in, even if it's a doubt about the techniques of things you're doing in meditation. And then checking in is kind of reconnecting, grounding, reminding how it should be, I suppose. Because if you're on your own, and you're like me, you'll end up complicating it a bit. You'll start to sort of think about, well, how am I saying the man, all sorts of things. And actually you forget how it's supposed to be effortless. But again, over time, after sort of repeated checks with yourself and coming into the TM Center, actually it's much easier now to go on for, a period of time, quite comfortable that I'm not doing it wrong.
So you feel very self-sufficient.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is also nice, because like many people, I kind of don't like to be dependent, I suppose. Maybe, oh God, I've got to go and see Angela and check in.
Yeah.
I like to think that I'm okay on it. And I know that I am, because I know from previous experience what it's like not to be okay with it,
Yes.
trying too hard, questioning everything, not wanting to do it, trying to do it. Now I just do it twice a day. Doesn't
Great.
take any,
Yeah.
sometimes I miss an afternoon one. If I've had to be at work and there's nowhere to do it, I haven't yet managed to do it on the train home. But I also don't beat myself up if I miss one. I don't miss many,
Yes, and
really.
and maybe not beating yourself up is also a
It's very,
benefit of
yes,
the
yeah, I used to beat
meditation.
myself up all the time. No, I did. But yeah, in a way, I did. I had all sorts of issues really that made me quite hard on myself. And I don't think I'm anywhere near as, I just don't have that sort of mind going on anymore really in that
Mm,
way. It's just
yeah,
not. And again, that's probably down to the TM really. I
yeah.
just don't have it. Perhaps that's an example of anxiety at work, and it's not there
Mm,
anymore. So yeah.
great, excellent. So, how do you find about maintaining the practice twice a day? Do you find that easy, or you feel it was a big leap for you to maintain that?
No, it depends. I'm very orderly, so I get up at the same time every day, go to bed at the same time every day, and I get up early. I'm a sort of 5 o'clock riser, so nobody is up at 5 o'clock with any sense. So I have, and that's the time I write as well. So that's the kind of reason why I did it that way. Is I write before I go to work, and that's a creative time in the morning for most people anyway. So I get up at 5, and the first thing I do is after I've sort of done a bit of basic waking up is the meditation, and it's the easiest thing to do because I've got all the time in the world to do it. Some
Great.
people might struggle if they aren't orderly. And then the afternoon one, again, mostly I'm off. I'm not in the office most of the time, so I can just go off and do it. And I do it between 3 and 5 in the afternoon. Uh, and I'll probably do the yoga exercises at least once a day, mostly in the afternoon, because I'm not quite as stiff as I am
Yes.
in the morning. So
Right.
easier
Nice.
to do in the afternoon. But
Yeah.
I'm lately starting to do it in the morning because I like, I think it was you that said you can meditate before you, no, you can do the yoga before you meditate and you'll have a good meditation, or you can do the yoga before the meditation and you'll have good yoga. And I
Yes.
prefer good meditation, I suppose.
So that's your favorite
That's my
thing. Your
favourite
favorite thing.
idea from you. Yes. So,
Yes.
so I
Yeah.
do the yoga and I do pranayama for sort of 5 minutes or so as well as nose breathing. I'd always do the nose breathing before the yoga because I find I need that. It effectively sort of just brings me down into
Down.
that
Yeah.
calm area where it's
Yeah.
easy to start the meditation.
Right. So you have some tools that you use to prepare yourself for meditation.
Yes. Yeah. Although I've
Yeah.
also just sat down and done it. But I don't think I think it's better to have, I like small rituals, practices as well.
Yeah.
It makes it somehow more,
Yeah.
enriches it anyway. So,
And what about if you're away traveling or you're away visiting friends? Have you found that it's easy to do?
it's easy not to do. If it's, I last time I went to like a weekend away with about 15 friends in a castle. It was a reunion of some kind. I didn't really do very much meditation at all. But I also knew that I didn't, it's nothing's
Yeah.
crucial. If you
Yeah.
can't, you can't. But I tend to do it when I travel. I'll find it's easy enough to find 20 minutes somewhere in the morning, especially if you're up early. And I've
Yes.
done it in a hotel room with my wife sleeping in
Yeah.
the bed and I'll be in a chair in the corner somewhere and it's perfectly feasible to do it that way. So
Yes.
it doesn't take much. I don't I haven't yet found it easy to do in the midst of noise on a train or things like that, as I said, but I think that actually will come with time. Today was
Yes.
quite noisy, but it was reasonably good. So,
And good. And what, for instance, when you were away and you missed the meditation, you weren't able to do it, then were you able to get back to it easily? And
yeah.
also, did you feel like you missed the experience?
Uh, I had a very good time. So, but it was easy to get back to. And I never for one moment felt, oh, I'm not going to, I'll stop now. Because I think people worry about that, but I just don't see it as something I have any need to not do. And I
Yeah.
find it very pleasant and easy to do. So if I miss it, if I'm traveling, if I can't, I'll come back and I'll just pick up where I left off. Doesn't,
Nice,
yeah.
nice, nice. So it's very easy to incorporate basically, and you always have it to get back to.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you tried other meditations before
I
learning
have.
TM?
Yep. Yeah, I have. I first tried, I had started attending a Buddhist centre in London many years ago, got quite interested in Buddhism, but ultimately found the whole elaborate mechanism of it far too much. And the Western Buddhist approach seemed rather strange to me. So I stopped. I didn't really develop. any kind of practice. I had a few interesting group meditations because I think there is something in a group meditating together. It does do things, but overall, no. And then, probably 10 years ago, during some stressful period, I think I tried a mindfulness app. I found sitting there, trying not to think, really stressful. Occasionally it was pleasant, and I've always loved nature, so I would often go for a walk and sit in the park and do
Yes.
that kind of thing. But it never. As I say, that's the funny thing about TM is that it's not difficult to do, and it seems to have results. I never had results with anything else, so I didn't do it for long, really. Yeah.
Okay, so you found the one you wanted, basically. Now, if you had a friend who was interested in learning TM, they were sitting on the fence, anything in particular that you would say to them to help them to make that leap?
Only what I said to you, really, that I can see that it works, and I understand that there's fairly solid, basic, almost Western materialist principles by which it does work.
Yes.
So I would probably ask them why they wanted to anyway,
Yeah.
and just talk that way, find out. Because ultimately, everyone is probably looking for a better internal life, I think, and a better understanding of things, because it's a very complex and difficult world to live in without that kind of thing. So,
Yes,
but I think ultimately it would be to just say, this is how it's affected me. And obviously they'll have seen the change in me.
And has
So,
anybody remarked on a change in you?
my wife, who is a complete doubter about all things esoteric or religious, accepts that I've changed.
So that's high praise.
Yes, yeah, it is indeed, it is. So, yeah, I think so. I mean, I would not ask people at work, do you think I've changed? So nobody has said I've changed, So,
Yeah.
but my wife has noticed it. My friends, I wouldn't ask them. And most of my friends are down south, so I don't see them that often. So, so it hasn't come up yet.
Yeah.
But I've talked to them about it, and there's a couple of interested parties. They're in
Great.
Brighton, so they might talk to Mark.
Excellent. And if you were to say in 5 words, or less than 5 words, even 3 words, if you wanted to sum up your experience, what 3 words would you use?
Of great benefit. It's not a complete sentence, really. But you
can
didn't
use
ask for a sentence. Of great benefit. It
Great
has been, 6 words. I found it
Yeah.
beneficial,
Yeah.
very beneficial.
Great. And if there was just words, any particular 3 words, that would
Sweet, which is the practice itself, I think. Steadying, which is its effect on me, and potential, I think, because there's a feeling of it being progressive. It's very subtle, and I don't expect results immediately, but I guess for me, actually, the most important thing I thought about this was I felt there was progress in life, which I hadn't felt for a long time. It was very repetitive, and there is an ultimate end, which is quite tragic. But to be progressing on the road there is the main thing, I think, to feel progress in myself.